Hi everybody. This is the September newsletter for our family, and we are currently in Colorado staying with my parents just about 1 hour north of Denver. And we just landed here about 2 weeks ago. Actually, we've been here a couple of times over the summer, but we just finally arrived here about 2 weeks ago after dropping Jillian off at Cedarville University, which is in Ohio. And then we took a short trip after that out to Long Island to visit our home church and some friends. We also had to pick up some warm weather clothes with winter approaching, as well as some homeschooling books that Cindy needs to educate the children. All of these items were stored on Long Island. Now, I know that many of you have been wondering, and some of you have been asking, when our family intends to return back to Nigeria. And I'd like to get to that in just a few moments. But first I'd like to take a minute or two to recap some of the other events that have taken place over the summer. Some of you are probably aware that many of our activities over the summer have centered around ministering to our family and also ministering to our children. And I'd like to talk for a few minutes about a subset of that regarding our second daughter, Jillian. And I do say a subset because I don't want to give the impression that everything revolved around one child, because it didn't. But currently, Jillian is our child who is undergoing this process of transitioning after living most of her life in a foreign country, now coming to live in the United States as an adult and go to college. And before I say any more about her, I'd like to just draw your attention to a link that I've provided right below this video that will direct you to a 3-year study that was conducted specifically for missionary kids that are undergoing this transition. And I realize that this is only one study, but it seems like the results of the study were pretty clear that missionary kids going through this transition experience a significant increased level of stress, depression, and anxiety compared to those students getting ready for college that have spent already most of their lives in the United States. Now, this study does recognize that those students, they already face an amazing amount of stress, but for missionary kids there is an increased level, and particularly among female students. The study also includes the results of these same students after they have attended what they call a transition seminar. You can think of it as like a 1 or 2 week debriefing time for missionary kids. And the study found that those students that had been suffering from higher levels of stress after the seminar were now back to like the normal levels of what other students would face if they had already grown up in the U.S. And some students even had levels higher than those averages. So, you know, I don't want to make this sound like this is like a perfect cure to solve everybody's problems, but it definitely is a major help. And that is what we saw in Jillian. And we're really happy to say that the results of her taking this seminar back in July were just astounding. And it was like night and day difference in her. And based on her own testimony, and even we could see in her demeanor, she had a much higher understanding of her own identity, also a higher understanding of the Western culture. And we'd like to believe that she was able to develop some confidence and to gather some tools to help her to establish meaningful relationships with people no matter what their background might be. And just as a quick side note, I did include the link below this video that will help you find the specific seminar that Jillian attended. There are a variety of seminars like this that are available. But we had a very good experience with this one, and it was one of the more affordable ones available. So if you are a missionary family and your kids are getting ready to go to college, I strongly recommend attending this seminar. Now, it would have been extremely convenient for us if this seminar had been scheduled just a couple of weeks before we had to drop Jillian off for college, so that we could have just driven there once and taken care of everything. But unfortunately, it was scheduled for the beginning of July. So this created an extremely awkward schedule for us over the summer. And if you retrace our steps from where we started at the end of May on Long Island, we drove out to Colorado and stayed with my parents for a few weeks, mostly just trying to get our bearings straight and kind of figure out, what in the world we were going to do. When it was time for Jillian's seminar, we drove back to Ohio to drop her off, and then we drove out to Kansas, and our family stayed there visiting Cindy's family for a couple of weeks. That was really wonderful. Then when the seminar was over, we drove back to Ohio to pick her up, and then back out to Colorado. And then we stayed in Colorado for a couple of weeks. And as I said at the very beginning of this video, some time ago, we started the journey to drop Jillian off at college in Ohio. We went to Long Island, and now we are back in Colorado. And I'm very happy to say that it looks like, for the time being, at least Cindy and the kids are going to be settled here for a good number of weeks so that the children can focus on their homeschooling. Now, some of the other things that we've been involved in over the summer, I've spent a significant portion of time, and Cindy has also, helping to coordinate our discipleship school that is currently running back in Nigeria. So our staff is still there. They started in August, and it sounds like things are moving pretty smoothly, but we've been helping out on this side with logistics and also just to help counsel the leadership team to make sure that everything is flowing well in that regard. Also, along with our travels of moving around, we've had several opportunities to visit some of our supporting churches. So of course, that's always good, and we enjoy doing that. While Cindy and the children will experience a certain level of stability over the upcoming weeks, I'm currently planning another journey back to Nigeria for 1 month. In fact, my flight leaves in just a few days. I'll be spending about 2 weeks in the southwest corner of Nigeria in the city of Lagos, teaching biomedical engineering students, before I then travel to the opposite corner of the country to spend about 2 weeks in our discipleship school, teaching there, doing leadership development, and also hopefully meeting some of the key leaders in the community. So over the summer, in my spare time, I've also, especially in the last couple of weeks, devoted much time to learning about this thing. This is what I'll be teaching the biomedical engineering students. It's called Raspberry Pi. And I mentioned this in my last newsletter, and nobody responded and asked, what is a Raspberry Pi? So I figured you either already know what it is or maybe don't care. But for those of you that don't know, this is what a Raspberry Pi looks like. And this is what I'll be teaching the students. You can think of this endeavor as somewhat in two ways. One is as in the humanitarian regard. Nigeria needs people that know how to fix medical equipment that was probably donated 20 years ago and broke and has been sitting in a closet just collecting dust because nobody knows how to repair it. But for me, I look at this in another aspect, and that is in the form of an outreach, because these students they're going to be a mixture between Christians and other religions, and I pray that God gives me the opportunity to be used to help these students to behold the glory of Christ. As I bring this newsletter to a conclusion, I'd like to go back to the question that many people have been asking us about when we intend to take the entire family back to Nigeria. In light of Jillian's circumstances that I described earlier, from the very beginning, we have felt like it is important for us to at least stay in the U.S. until Jillian has completed her first semester. And as I said, all of the observations we've made of her in the recent past, they would all indicate that she is going to do just fine. In fact, like far better than what we probably could have imagined that she's going to do, and we're excited about that. But she has only been in college for a few weeks. So we do feel like it's the wise thing for us to do, to stick around at least to the end of the semester. We're planning on spending Thanksgiving with Jillian, and also hopefully Christmas as well. Now, with that said, there's some other big news that I want to announce. In fact, this is like the climax of the whole newsletter. Cindy and I have recently found out that we are going to be first-time grandparents. See, look, I even have a coffee mug. It says, "Keep calm and Grandpa will fix it." Cindy says in big letters, "Grandma looks so young, she needs a mug to prove it." So yeah, we just found out a few weeks ago that, not Jillian, Hannah and Brandon are expecting. And the baby is due in February. So I don't know what you would do, but we are not going to fly back to Nigeria 6 weeks before our first grandbaby is born. I really have a feeling that most of you watching this video are going to understand that. So it looks like when we go back to Nigeria, we're looking at the beginning of March. So that's the conclusion of our newsletter. I know it's a little bit long this time, but there's a lot of stuff that we felt like we needed to share. And please feel free to communicate with us if you have any questions, any words of encouragement. We thank you for praying for us. And our family, we also pray for you guys. We know that you need our prayers. We know some of your situations that you guys are in. And we love praying for you guys, and we just love you. Thanks for watching this. Bye-bye.